Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team.
I would be very careful about slinging stones.
Am I going to get sued?
We got legal on this?
Let's send you out on the right note. PFF sucks. Have a great day, everybody.
Wow. Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube. It's May 13th. It's really the real off season here. So we're talking NFL, but we got some news. We got some breaking NFL news, some big time breaking NFL news to discuss here today. Then we'll get into the most improved teams. Sam.
All right. What broke?
There's a new hire for the Carolina Panthers over the last few days. From the PFF tree.
The PFF tree. The coaching tree.
There's an announcement. It's a big week. It's schedule release week. Some people are releasing their schedule mock drafts. And Pete Traeger, who's awesome at mock drafts and predicting Super Bowl winners, and he's 1 for 1 in his schedule mock draft.
In his schedule mock draft?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't understand the hype around the schedule. I get it for people that like want to plot out what games they're going to. You know, people that actually attend the games. That makes sense. For the rest of us, it's like the games are coming. You know which ones are happening anyway. Like, what difference does it matter when?
The NFL is just marketing geniuses because they just flood the timeline. I mean, if you see what happened, you know, you follow a lot of insiders as we do, NFL people as we do. It's Monday morning. Everyone has just tweeted out the same image. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. By the way, spoiler alert here. Ravens Chiefs will kick off the season. That's the breaking news.
The Thursday game, the kickoff.
But that's how the day started. Schefter's got it, and everybody, the NFL's putting it out there, and everybody's just got this image. Mahomes, Lamar, it's week 1, AFC Championship rematch. So they know how to hype this thing up.
I know I'm a week late on this, but as a diehard Brady fan over there, did you have feelings about the roast, the Brady roast?
Not particularly.
A lot of people saying mean things about Tommy.
No, I mean people,
including teammates.
I saw the people. First off, all those jokes are well written by actual comedians,
except Gronk's, which was hilariously on brand.
Which is even better.
Yeah.
I think I saw the people who were like, "Wait, they paid Brady $25 million for people to come in and make fun of his ex-wife," and he's like,
I mean, Jason Kelce was making that point. He was like, I don't get roasts. Like, you watch the thing and it's like, there's a lot of jokes there that sail very close to the bone. You would do well to come out of that without getting hurt feelings.
It's for the money.
Regardless of who you are, right? Because everyone's a target.
But
whatever his name is, Tony Hinchcliffe just sort of went down the line and just hammered everybody, right? So everyone's getting annihilated.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting the money, a lot of it.
Yeah,
you would do extremely well to come out of that without getting your feelings hurt.
They all got paid to be there too.
Yes, but Jason Kelce was making this point. It's like, I don't get roast. Like, why would you volunteer to sit there and just have people absolutely rip you to shreds for stuff that's definitely gonna hit a nerve? It's not like, that's good. That's a good joke. You and me laughing together. It's like,
you can't laugh at yourself, man.
Yeah, but there's a line there, and they definitely consistently cross the line in pursuit of funny, right?
I don't know. I'm pretty thin-skinned. I probably couldn't handle it.
No, definitely couldn't.
For $25 million.
But for $25 million,
I'd be able to suck it up.
Find a way to handle it. Yeah.
And he had to do it to offset all the money that he lost in the scam.
In the crypto, yeah.
The crypto thing, yeah.
Which they joked about. Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying, it's like, did he actually make $25 million, which he offset because he lost didn't he lose $25 million?
Something like that, yeah.
Right? So Netflix was like, hey, heard you just lost $25 million. We'll give you $25.
What if we could replace the $25 million?
What if we could replace that $25? You just have to,
in the budget.
And then Brady just threw on like a whole persona where he's like, I'm the GOAT, let me just talk down to everybody. I mean, they're all just actors.
Yeah.
They're all just actors.
I'm in the Jason Kelce camp of money aside, not quite getting the allure of roasts. I think it's a very American thing. I don't think they tend to exist elsewhere. It just, I don't know. I don't quite get the appeal because they're pretty mean-spirited. And as a mean-spirited person,
it's too much for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to open myself up to that. Not that anyone's queuing up to roast me as on TV. We can do that in the chat. And they do.
I mean, we open ourselves up 3 times a week, sometimes 2 times a week in the offseason. Hey, I brought that up. I brought our negotiations to the forefront with Greg the other day.
Oh, yeah?
I said, Greg, management wants us to go 3 times a week in the offseason. What do you guys do? He says, usually 2.
Ooh. And they're a bigger podcast than we are. And award-winning, right?
I brought our internal discussions and negotiations with management over here.
Well, we should definitely use that
to the public.
We should use that an award-winning podcast that beat us for the award we were going for, and is a larger audience than us. Does this?
Yeah, 2
or
times
go.
a week, unless something's coming up.
You do that.
They might even take a couple weeks off at a time. They kind of regroup before training camp.
That's crazy.
If I understand. So just saying. That's all I'm saying. We got most improved teams. We have to go through our draft bets. I didn't add that to the title. We have to go through the draft bets and see who won.
Okay.
So I got to pull that up at some point here as well.
Yep.
So start thinking about the most improved teams in the NFL. But first, as a busy parent, you want to give your kids a head start in their financial future. But investing can often be both confusing and time-consuming. But Fabric by Gerber Life makes it easy for you to set up an investment account for your child that grows with them and helps prepare for their financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a UGMA account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. UGMA stands for Uniform Gifts to Minors Act. While your kids can't invest while they're minors, a UGMA account allows you to invest on their behalf and gives their investments more time to grow. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Portfolio is managed by Ford Washington Investment Advisors, Inc. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Monthly minimum contribution required. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, man, do you want to go through most improved teams, or do you want to go through some of these?
Well, let's cover your breaking news first.
Oh, yeah, so the breaking news in the NFL. Ravens, Chiefs, week 1.
Done that, yep.
And Dr. Eric Eager, formerly of PFF via Sumer Sports as well, has been hired by the Carolina Panthers for a publicly undisclosed job description. But I mean, I know what it is.
Oh, you know what it is.
I just don't know if it's public yet. But Eric's been hired by the Carolina Panthers.
The tweet said something like to work in the analytics department or to work in analytics or something like that.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else. He's not being hired to play tight end, so.
No.
Analytics department.
That would be a big
sense.
jump. Yeah.
So yeah, Eric Eager. Congrats to Dr. Eric.
The late doctor.
Yeah. And so it's just another. I was talking to him the other day. Congratulatory phone call, and I said, "Is this for the PFF tree? Do you go into the front office with a PFF hat or a Sumer hat?" And I think it's got to be a PFF hat, right?
Well, that's the tree. I mean, Sumer.
Just move my chair down.
Yeah. Okay. The Sumer is its own thing, right? But the coaching tree comes out from PFF.
It's our tree.
Yeah.
It's our tree. So
the question is, who within PFF claims it?
Well, Rick's gone now, so I'm going to claim him. I mean, I was one of the early advocates for.
But he was
Eric.
also, he was also doing PP. He was doing special team stuff. So like Gordon and Khaled have
It's
claimed
all
him
under
as well.
Khaled. It's all under K.
All
K's
under
hired
K.
everyone. Yeah.
Well, there was
He
a
gets
while.
credit and blame for everybody.
There was a while where everyone had to do their own like little interviews. You had to screen your own people.
That's true. We did.
Yeah.
Did I hire Zach exactly? No, not really. Neil really brought him.
Yeah, Zach was all those people were always.
But Neil, I mean, Zach learned under my wing.
Yeah.
Under,
no, I think you could claim him.
Under the wing.
I think you could claim Zach.
Yeah.
I
could claim Bruce.
Yeah.
Too. Right? Like Bruce used to drive down here from Toledo. We'd buy him lunch.
UFL.
Once a week.
Offensive coordinator for a team that's still doing really well, I think.
Bruce
right?
Gradkowski. I mean, he used to sit down with me and I'd teach him the ways. Learn him the ropes over here at PFF. So yeah, congrats to Eric working with the Panthers. They've made a few different moves there. Brant Tillis coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs with a pretty high up position there next to Dan Morgan, the new general manager. So Eric's going to be working with that group.
Bruce running the second most prolific offense in the UFL right now for the St. Louis Battlehawks. 5-2, top of their conference, division, whatever you call that thing, XFL conference.
Not going to lie, my weekends in the offseason are pretty loaded. Haven't had a chance to sit down and watch A.J. McCarron in the fighting battle hawks.
I've caught a little bit. I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on it without watching 3 hours of UFL games. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'd like to catch up. Maybe grind the film by June. Go back and watch watch some UFL film.
It's the spring soccer league for the under 12 girls team that we're coaching. Scats team. So I'm busy trying to reinvent wing play here. I don't have time to get deep into the UFL.
I got Harry and Teddy playing baseball. Can't hit a ball. I mean, I got to teach them how to hit. They can't make contact. It's brutal. And Harry's pitching pretty well though.
Yeah. Let me know if you want me to come in.
Yeah. Do you want to
coach him up?
It's really difficult teaching people something from scratch.
Nothing. Yeah.
From scratch.
Right.
Like I've taught, professionals, borderline professionals, the whole thing, college kids. I kind of forget it's like this is what a throw is.
Yeah, like you can tweak emotion, but how do you actually go? I don't understand how to go from zero to throw.
You have to get yourself in this headspace that they literally know nothing.
Yeah.
They have no baseline for anything. And that's a challenge as a coach.
Well, this is why the ceremonial pitch outs, the ones that go into the dirt or into the stands or whatever, the ones that look so ridiculous. It never computes in my brain that there are people that can't just throw a ball 60 feet or whatever it is, right? Like whatever, hitting 60 was one thing, but at least it was like a genuine sort of understanding amongst all parties that I could throw a ball the 60 feet that was required for this to happen. It was just, could I do it at 60 miles an hour or not?
I mean, I think it shows just how great baseball players, athletes are, that it is so difficult for the average person, an athlete, to throw a ball.
No, I don't think it does.
It shows how great we are.
I don't think that's true. I think the average person can throw. I think it shows how bad all these people are that they find to do that. Because I'm an average person, I can throw a ball. That's not the standard. The standard is higher than that.
Anyway, is there any other breaking news? Anything you want to add?
No, just congratulations to the good doctor.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
I mean, rest in peace. He's not here at PFF any longer, but he is with the Panthers.
Yep.
I don't love that he is in the NFC South, just like Zach.
When I've got competing PFF interests.
Yeah, at least Bobby's in the other conference.
Right.
In the AFC. But it's just another team. I'm sure, listen, if Eric's got some dirt that he wants out there in the public, if he wants some misinformation out there, he knows he has us to use. He knows he has a voice if he wants to, trash Bryce Young's work habits or something like that so that the front office looks better. Whatever you want to call it, we're here.
And hopefully it will give us an even greater insight and understanding into the mind of a billionaire, which is always a positive.
Yeah.
And what a billionaire to work with.
Can't wait for those stories. That is the best thing, is billionaire stories from our friends.
It really is.
In the industry.
Yeah. Can't really tell them publicly, but behind the scenes, they're awesome.
Other rumblings and other things going on. We can't get into it yet, but any other NFL news while you're gone here?
No, nothing much happened.
Had a lot of fun. We had, if you guys missed it on Thursday, I had Greg Rosenthal on the show, which was great. I mean, I did not prepare him much. I said, we're going to talk draft in general offseason, which I felt like was broad enough. I felt like that was a good enough topic, and he felt like, man, you didn't give me anything to prepare for here.
We need one of those shows that you do with Greg every year. We need to find a way of making it happen in person, because the amount of crap I take from being next to you and looking like a child.
Bring the booster seat.
Right.
To help
Imagine what Greg would look like sitting next to you in the same, chair, same setup.
Anything else you want to touch on here at the top of the show?
No, I think we can, get into the meat of the
most improved teams. You want to do most improved teams, and then so the draft bets that we'll get to. Remember, those were from you. Those were from our viewers and our listeners. Bets, probably not the right word. They were predictions. They were bold takes. They were whatever you want to call them. But you put something up. Often coffee. I at least see one Kirkland coffee that we're going to be winning. So we'll go through that in a little bit and see how well your predictions were for the NFL draft. But first, let's talk most improved teams. And, the off season's mostly over. There'll still be a few one-off late veteran signings and, some training camp moves and all that. But knowing that with the draft behind us, free agency behind us, who are the most improved teams in the NFL? Who stands out to you as a most improved team this offseason?
So let's start with the Chicago Bears. I think you have to say the Bears are an extremely improved team given where they were and what they've gone to. Obviously, the whole offseason decision was, will they, won't they, with Justin Fields? Are they going to move on? Are they going to use the number one pick on a quarterback? Or do they trade down, take a massive haul of picks, continue to build around Justin Fields, give him one more year, and then hope that he's the guy, effectively commit to him long term? They decided to trade him away for pennies on the dollar. They get Caleb Williams. They get Rome Odunze in the same draft. And now you are theoretically rebooting but starting over with a vastly improved situation. So unlike the Justin Fields spot where he was genuinely set up to fail, they had nothing around him. And the fact that he showed anything with the environment that was around him those first couple of years, I think is actually an impressive thing in his favor. Caleb Williams is now throwing to Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, guys out of the backfield, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert. I mean, this is a very, very good group of skill position players around him, and an offensive line that, if he plays more within structure than Justin Fields did, is probably going to look a lot better.
Yeah, and I think if you look at this from a multi-year view, obviously we're talking most improved. We're going to talk last year to this year. The Bears, they earned the 9th overall pick, not the 1st overall pick. So they were still one of the worst teams in the NFL, but not the worst. But from a multi-year view, remember when Ryan Poles took over, they had some cap issues. They had very little in the way of draft capital. And one of the first moves was to trade Khalil Mack, which feels like a long time ago, when the Bears were unloading Khalil Mack to the Chargers and kind of restructuring the roster. But now they didn't have as many draft picks this year, but they had the 2 high-end picks in Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, had a ton of picks in 2023. I'm not saying it's – look, I think the roster itself, top to bottom, is below a lot of, at least 2 of the other teams in the NFC North when you talk about what the Packers and the Lions have. But it is better than it was a couple of years ago. I think the offensive line looks reasonable enough. They looked worse, I think, with Justin Fields at quarterback. You mentioned that trio at receiver. That's how I always look at teams, man. I look at the quarterback and I look at the pass catchers. And I say, is the offensive line good enough? And I feel like the Bears have all of that. I think one of my questions for the Bears is on the defensive side of the ball. They were really good down the stretch there, and they brought in Montez Sweat in the middle of the season. Kevin Byard comes in at safety. Does he still have something to offer there? They got young in the secondary with Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith last year to go with Jalen Johnson, who they just paid. It does look like they've got more talent on the defensive side of the ball. Can they keep that that down the stretch type of cohesion that they had? That was pretty good. I think the Bears are feeling pretty good with going into 24 here.
Keeping hold of Jalen Johnson was a big thing. On what was a fairly team-friendly deal as well. They deserve a lot of credit for that. I don't know if you want to give them credit for that in terms of offseason, just keeping your guys in the building. But their defensive approach, Kevin Byard aside, seems to have been largely, we have a ton of young guys, let's hope that they get better next year, as opposed to let's really reinforce this and bring in several more players and upgrade. They have gone, we invested heavily last season. We got Tremaine Edmonds, we got TJ Edwards, we got those draft picks in the middle, Gervon Dexter, Zach Piggins, etc. The corners, Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith. Let's hope that they get better and improve together. And if they do, this group becomes really good. If they don't, we'll deal with that in the future. But that, I think, was their approach on that. It's like all the focus was on offense. Let's make sure this quarterback succeeds as opposed to the last one. The Caleb Williams thing is going to be fun because the Bears have an all-time pitiful history of quarterback play. And Caleb Williams has got some funny numbers to chase. You know what the rookie Chicago record is for touchdown passes?
Oh, it's like 17 or something.
It's 11.
11.
So he has 11.
11?
He gets 11 touchdown passes. He ties the rookie record. You know what the overall record is for this team? Which, let's remember, was a founding member of the NFL.
28.
29. Close. So nobody's ever.
Is that Eric Kramer?
Yes. Nobody has ever thrown for more than 30 touchdowns in a season as a Chicago Bears quarterback. Eric Kramer, 29. 2 Jay Cutler seasons. Number 4 on that list is Sid Luckman, who did it in 1947. Wow. That's how bad this history is. So as a rookie, it's entirely plausible that Caleb Williams becomes the all-time leading single-season touchdown passer for Chicago. And, in fact, that's corresponding for like yardage as well, right?
I'm very snobby when it comes to people citing the record book. Yeah. So through the years, I've brought this up before, but I thought Cam Newton, during his career was a solid NFL quarterback. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer like some people think. I honestly don't think there was more than a 2-season stretch where Cam Newton was a top 10 quarterback in his era when he played. 2015, he won the MVP. Everywhere else, he was probably QB 11. He was like competing with Matthew Stafford for QB 11 in his era, right? And every time I bring up something like that, people are like, Cam Newton has 29 NFL records or whatever it is. And most of the records are like most yards through 1 game.
Yeah.
Most yards through 2 games.
Right.
Most yards through 3 games. Most rushing the rushing touchdowns are there for Cam, and that's a thing. So what I'm saying, like, Caleb Williams is going to be breaking Bears rookie records by week 7, and it's going to be Caleb Williams has 92 Chicago Bears rookie quarterback records at the end of the season or whatever it is. And all I ask is that we don't completely overreact. Plus, there's a 17-game schedule.
Yeah.
You stay healthy for 17 games, he's going to destroy these things.
And the fact that, forget the rookie records. Like, Chicago's quarterback history is so bad outside of Sid Luckman, who was working in the 1940s, that all of their records are in play. Like, the bar is set so low for him that every single passing record Chicago has to offer is on the table for somebody like Caleb Williams if he comes in and has a really good rookie season.
And no more use for the Bears. Can I use that still?
I don't see why not.
Do you have anything else on the Bears?
If there's one thing you've learned from the late Dr. Eric Eager, it's that a joke has never been used too much.
Never too
You
much.
keep flogging that thing.
I'm gonna miss Eric, attacking the fan accounts that have 250 followers.
What if he still does it?
What if he still does?
Yeah.
What if that's
don't
part
know.
of maybe he's there as social media director, so he's gonna have to be on Twitter. Maybe they got him for his social media skills, his tact even.
I mean, it would be. This
In the
is
Twitter
probably. I don't know what the Panthers' internal policy is on social media presences from their staff, but I would imagine this is the most restrictive entity that he has entered into as a public-facing figure, right?
Yeah.
And he won't be public-facing, you would assume, with Carolina. But between PFF, Sumer, and now the Carolina Panthers, I'm going to go ahead and say theirs is the most restrictive social media policy of the 3.
They're gonna have to tie his hands during lunch breaks. He's gonna see something. He's gonna get twitchy. Gotta respond.
He is going to
Gotta
have
respond.
7 burner
He'll have some
accounts.
burners going.
So the main account is now going to go silent, but there's going to be 7 interesting Carolina-focused burner accounts that surface.
There's no person in the world who is going to have the most obvious burners than when he starts talking about Brownie in motion or whatever,
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know who Joe 67934 is.
Right.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Talking about Brownie in motion and mathematical concepts and whatever else. It's going to be tough to have burners, Eric. It's going to be very tough.
You're going to have to dumb it down a bit, yeah.
He did say maybe because he can't podcast, though, he's going to listen to us.
Huh.
So he'll be listening.
Well,
Maybe.
we can give him tips on how to avoid getting rumbled as a burner account.
Yeah, don't get a burner, Eric. You can't hide your voice. It's very tough to hide Eric's voice.
I mean, I imagine it's easy enough. You just have to be conscious of it.
All right, I'm going to go my most improved team that stands out to me is the Tennessee Titans. Now, is this really short-sighted because they made a lot of let's get better in 2024 types of moves, including trading for L'Jarius Sneed?
They now have a wide receiver room. I think this is just their starters.
Shoot, Eric's texting us.
The top 3. Is he
He
really?
is listening.
Yeah. Their top 3 wide receivers have an average age of 30 plus.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that's fine for this year. So I can't remember if this was on the Greg show when I was talking about this. I'm a big believer in those top 3 receivers. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still a wide receiver 1, probably the lower end of wide receiver 1 type of history. Calvin Ridley is better as a 2, and he gets to be a 2 here next to Nuke Hopkins. And they just signed Tyler Boyd, who I think, look, he's not coming off a great season, but is a pretty good wide receiver 3 right now. So I like that trio of receivers. J.C. Latham, early reports are that he will play at left tackle, so they're going to put him on the left side. I think, look, the tough part is projecting a rookie going out there and performing well right away.
Right.
But Latham and Peter Skoronski on the left side here, they're bringing Lloyd Cushenberry, who's coming off of his best season, to play center. They could be solid in 4 out of 5 spots there, which is better than they were, way better than they were last year. And then defensively, I think Tavondre Sweat can make an impact right away as a nose tackle, right next to Jeffrey Simmons on that defensive line, and that secondary, as I mentioned, L'Jarius Sneed, but also Chidobe Awuzie coming in. Say what you want about the money for both of those corners and what they have invested going forward, but I think for this year the Titans look a lot better. I don't know if it'll show on the record because it'll all depend on Will Levis, but I think they've put some pieces onto that roster that was rebuilding about a year ago at this time.
Yeah, I mean, Sneed, I think, is a fantastic move for them overall. Like, they traded for him for really not much at all, to the point where, we were wondering why. There was reports that his knee was an issue and that was what was kind of holding up trade talks. But if they've cleared him medically, I mean, the cost to get him was incredibly good from their perspective. The contract that they signed him to wasn't insane either. So you add Sneed, you add Awuzie, who's a perfectly capable starting corner, to Roger McCreary, who I think was the one player in that cornerback room already that was actually pretty good and can operate from the slot. It is a pretty overhauled cornerback room that should definitely be a massive upgrade. The interesting thing is they've kind of done what the Bears have done in terms of, all right, let's really build around Will Levis and give him the opportunity to succeed, except instead of, like the Bears kind of did it by hitting everywhere they could, right? We'll bring in one big move, the DJ Moore thing as part of the trade. We'll bring in a veteran for, a fourth-round pick, but the giant contract that he's on, and then we'll grab a rookie, and we'll sort of hit every level of this. Whereas the Titans have gone, let's just grab all the 30-year-old players that are already good, right? We'll just pay them. Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, we'll pay him big money, and we'll bring in Tyler Boyd as the sort of post-draft free agent. Now we've got this entire really experienced wide receiver room who probably has 1 year left before they're all done. And that's it. That's all we got. Which is, I mean, it's an interesting approach. From this point, like 2024, Will Levis should be very well set up to succeed in terms of people he's throwing to. 2025, who knows?
And then for whatever it's worth, I don't remember how much you look into this stuff, but they're talking up Treylon Burks in camp too. They're talking up Treylon Burks.
But this is after just signing Tyler Boyd, which leaves Treylon Burks. I mean, this might be where he belongs.
You like him as a,
right.
Get the ball in his hands, the N'Keal Harry role.
No, the Treylon Burks Arkansas role. Like, he becomes the designated gimmick. Like that. If you watch his tape at Arkansas, he was not playing wide receiver. He was playing athlete. It was like when you watch, colleges do this as well, but high school in particular. If you watch these guys in high school, it's like, who is our best athlete and how do we get the ball in his hands, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's so extreme in high school. Generally, that guy plays quarterback, so he's got the ball in his hands every time. But if he doesn't, he plays the way Treylon Burks played, which is he's going to line up a quarterback in the backfield, in the slot, at tight end. We're going to move him everywhere, and every play is essentially designed to go through that guy and just get the ball into his hands, regardless of where he's lining up, but in a variety of different ways. He was really good at that. It just wasn't a wide receiver position. And the question for him coming into the NFL was, okay, that's great, but can you translate that to now you're going to play X receiver or Z wide receiver, or you have to fit into some kind of conventional position and operate that way. And so far, he hasn't been able to do that. So if you just put him back in that role and say, you're going to have a designated gimmick, except instead of every play coming to you, it's like 1 in every 12. He should be still good at it. It's just a much smaller role than it was in college.
So that has me intrigued by the Titans. Anytime you move people down the depth chart at receiver and you tap into just what they do well, I think that's a good strategy. So I like the Titans.
All right.
Do you have another there's a really obvious most improved team that we haven't talked about yet.
Is it the Pittsburgh Steelers?
It's not who I'm thinking of, but if you want to talk about them, we can.
The Steelers would have been the next team that I brought up. Obviously, at PFF, we're contractually obliged to hate the Steelers and everything they stand for. But
yeah, this is going to put us in hot water with management, but we already are, as we discussed before. So
right, because I think, look, they decided the Kenny Pickett thing wasn't going to work. We're going to go in a different direction, and they did not have a ton of good options. But the options, so when you bear in mind that Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers, their baseline is they don't have losing seasons. They're generally above 500 and challenging for the postseason. They were doing that with Kenny Pickett having not developed at all. They bring in Russell Wilson and are paying him effectively nothing. It's like $1 million. He's against their cap this year. Denver is eating all the pain of the Russell Wilson contract. And then they trade for Justin Fields for the flip side, the pennies on the dollar deal that Chicago dealt him away for. And he's on the books for not a lot of money as well. And obviously there's the potential upside of what he could become. Then you look at what did they do to the rest of the team relative to that quarterback situation. So number one, I think either one of those guys is an upgrade over Kenny Pickett from last year, right? Whatever you think about Russell Wilson and his limitations and what he can be and where he belongs, he's better than Kenny Pickett is shown to be. And Justin Fields, I think, is better than Kenny Pickett, if just because he's way more dangerous. So you have to be concerned by way more things than you do with Kenny Pickett. So I think they upgraded the quarterback situation without spending a lot of money. And then you look at the overall roster. I think they added a ton of potential impact players and rebuilt an offensive line that's been sort of churning itself in the right direction anyway. The draft in particular obviously was where they did the heavy lifting there. Troy Fautanu at left tackle, Zach Frazier at center. Both of those guys could start day one, and then even Mason McCormick lower down. He's more of a long-term thing, but as a developmental guy that could eventually find his way into the starting lineup.
Yeah, I view that. I don't know if the Steelers are going to be most improved from last year to this year, but they'd be on the list for me as far as 2 years worth of really like what they're doing. And as I've said before, I think they're making the right move at quarterback, given their circumstances. I just don't know if it's actually going to make an impact. Will Russell Wilson actually make an impact, or Justin Fields if he gets an opportunity to play? Will they actually make enough of an impact that you'll feel it? But I would say the offensive line, moves that they've made this year to kind of, I think they'll have a chance to have a really good offensive line over the next few seasons. Again, you've got 2 rookies perhaps in the mix right away. Do you feel that right away in 2024? I'm not sure. I like what they've done on the defensive side the last couple of years, adding a guy like Keanu Benton in the draft last year, had a nice rookie season. You can get more from him. Patrick Queen, maybe, the way he's progressed in his career might solidify the linebacker position for Pittsburgh. They've had this like revolving door of linebackers and corners the last couple of years. Queen could be the guy to solidify linebacker. Year 2 of Joey Porter Jr. could be the guy to solidify one of the corner spots. So I like a lot of what Pittsburgh's done. I think there's some uneasiness about the receiver situation right now. The opposite of what they've had in the past. They were rolling pretty deep on paper, at least, at receiver. You didn't feel it because the offense was not great from Matt Canada. Kenny Pickett was inconsistent. But George Pickens, and they're just kind of stitching it together. Maybe Roman Wilson is the guy to step up as a third rounder, but that's a lot to ask. But overall, I like what Pittsburgh's doing.
So what do you make of the coaching change as well? Because obviously Matt Canada's offense was much maligned.
And Arthur Smith coming in here.
Yeah, for a long period of time. And Arthur Smith is the guy that comes in eventually to replace him. And Arthur Smith has become like a meme, right? Because instead of getting the ball to Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Drake London, the ball goes to like random other people like, Jonnu Smith or whatever, right? Maybe there's a ceiling on how good Arthur Smith's offenses can be, but they're generally pretty good. Like, they're not bad offenses. They're just frustrating for people that want their fantasy player to get the bulk of the workload. So
yeah,
theoretically, they should have upgraded significantly going from Matt Canada's offense that's been unable to do much of anything to Arthur Smith. But then you get the joke of like, okay, we've got George Pickens and Roman Wilson in the draft and, Pat Freiermuth at tight end. But who's this offense actually going to go through? Is it going to be the Scotty Miller offense this week? Or, is Denzel Mims finally going to break out within this offense, get 12 targets?
Just get off the internet. Take like Dr. Eager over there and just get off the internet. Like Scotty Miller was the number 4 read on a crosser in the red zone. And it's like, Scotty Miller's stealing all the red zone targets. Come on, Arthur. What are you doing? Let's be fair to Art here.
Okay.
Let's be fair. He was the guy that got Ryan Tannehill's career on track in Tennessee. He was the one where Ryan Tannehill had career years with the Tennessee Titans under Arthur Smith. And then with the Falcons, he had one step into retirement, Matt Ryan, for a year. And then Desmond Ridder, who, isn't going to be starting in the NFL going forward. So those were his Those were his quarterbacks. Now, I'm not saying he was perfect, right? He did run power behind into a formation where he displaced the right tackle, left a hole like he was photoshopped out of the play and ran behind that hole on 4th and 1 on a play last year. I'm just saying, that's just reality. It happened. So I'm not saying he's perfect, but I don't think Arthur Smith's as bad as social media would have you believe. Because you get it's a lot of the fantasy people like, oh, Bijan doesn't have the touchdowns. Right. It's Algier. Oh, no. It's like, he is right. I mean, we're trying to put the ball into the end zone. Anyway, this is Darnell Washington's time to shine. I think I liked Darnell Washington coming out as a 3rd rounder for the Steelers last year as a run-blocking tight end that they're going to use in this offense, him and Freiermuth. I think there's a chance that this fit does work pretty well for the Steelers.
So the Arthur Smith, Russell Wilson axis is going to be fascinating. And it might only be for a few weeks. Maybe it's actually Justin Fields that's going to be the guy that wins that starting job going forward long term. But on the one hand, you could picture Arthur Smith being a perfect coach to get Russell Wilson back to where, whatever his potential ceiling is right now. Like there's some elements of the Arthur Smith offense, a lot of play action, the sort of things that work for Ryan Tannehill that you think those are perfect. That's what we want for Russell Wilson right now. Sort of actually do what, the Seahawks did for a while, limit the ask of Russell Wilson, not expect too much of him, help him out with play action. On the other hand, so that side, you're like, that's a great fit. That's exactly what you want from Russell Wilson right now. The downside is Arthur Smith likes to target the middle of the field a lot, and Russell Wilson doesn't like doing that at all and never has, to the point where a lot of the times you sort of look, you tend to sort of divine that out from looking at passing maps and where the routes are run. And we talked about that with Matt Canada's offense, right? They didn't even run routes into the area of the field that you're like, why are they not targeting that? Because there's nothing in there. It's not like the quarterback is looking at a thing, turning it down, going somewhere else. There's not a route in that spot of the field. But Russell Wilson doesn't like targeting the middle of the field to the extent where there are routes into those spaces. They're open, and he's like, not for me. I'm going to go down here. There's a guy streaking down the field. I'm going to take a shot at that instead. I'm going to turn down the slant, and I'm going to go ham down on this post over here.
To George Pickens, most likely.
Right. So
that'll be interesting.
On the one side, you've got a lot of play action, a lot of things that should help Russell Wilson. On the other hand, you've got the entire offense wants to work in the area of the field you don't like targeting. So how's that going to work?
Now, for the fantasy pundits out there, I didn't realize this connection the other day, but when you mentioned Scotty Miller, he is on the Steelers now.
Yeah.
And Michael Pruitt?
Yep.
Pruitt's he's the guy was he getting end around? No, Jonnu Smith was getting the end arounds. And Pruitt was stealing touchdowns too, I think. He does, Arthur Smith does have his favorite guys in there sitting at wide receiver 6 and tight end 4 on the depth chart here.
And Cordero Patterson signed the very second that kick returns became a thing again.
No, but the receiver room is the one that I do have some questions about now. Because they traded Deontay Johnson.
A lot rests on the shoulders of Roman Wilson. He actually does kind of need to come in and be good right away.
And then, if Steve was GM and you said Steve just signed Steve has Quez Watkins, Calvin Austin, and Scotty Miller all on the team, you'd think, yeah, that's about right. I got 3 speed, one trick down the field type of guys,
right?
To be our deep threats. So one of those guys could step up as the deep threat there.
Sure.
All right, the other. You good with the Steelers?
Yeah.
The team that I think was the most obvious is the Houston Texans, though. We started in the NFC. That's good. It's not just AFC teams, but the Houston Texans are probably the most obvious, most improved team this offseason, right? I mean, it's in part because what C.J. Stroud did as a rookie. So okay, we're in year 2 of C.J. Stroud, and we need to build around him. We've got that rookie contract to build around. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to trade for Stephon Diggs. I know we lost Jonathan Grenard, but may have upgraded with Danielle Hunter coming in to play opposite Will Anderson. So the Texans have to be on this list here because they're going to be everyone's darling, bring in Joe Mixon, everyone's darling to be the next team to go up and challenge the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, the teams that have been near the top and fighting for the AFC Championship the last couple of years.
Their approach has been really interesting because they've made the kind of moves that are they would be talked about all-in moves if there was more of a track record there. Like if this was the second or third year that the Texans had been playoff bound, if they were like the Bills, right? And the Bills had made these moves, you're like, Buffalo's going all in to try and get over that hump. They've made those types of moves. Like they've voluntarily gotten older and more expensive at multiple positions in the kind of, this is the guy that puts us over the hump move. Only they just encountered the hump like last year. They've only just seen the hump for the first time. It's not like a hump that they've consistently not been able to get over. It's like this thing has only just loomed on the horizon into view, and they're like, we're going to need more reinforcements to get over that. They're like planning before they've arrived at this thing. So they go and get Danielle Hunter as opposed to Jonathan Grenard. It's a kind of interesting approach, and Stephon Diggs as well. You don't usually see a team, number one, that has the advantage of that rookie sort of quarterback deal very early on. Number two, that only just sort of arrived on the scene as this up-and-coming side, throw that much at this sort of short-term an approach, particularly the Diggs thing. I mean, Danielle Hunter is still in his prime, but it's only, that one only looks strange when you view it through the prism of letting go Jonathan Grenard to bring in Danielle Hunter. You had a guy that was pretty good and productive and young.
He was hitting free agency. It's not like you really had him.
No, I understand. Well, you had him under contract, and then you could have gotten him. You could have signed him long term for a fraction of the deal that Danielle Hunter signed before you got to free agency. Is what I'm saying. So there was a conscious approach there of, we're probably going to let this guy walk, and instead we'll bring in a much more expensive and more productive, to be fair, older player. So I don't know quite what to make about how aggressive they've been with this. We can win this year.
Well, let's not have short memories here, Sam. We were the ones sitting here 4 years ago in two back-to-back off seasons say, what are the Texans doing? Why are they just why are they just signing backups? Why are they just signing rotational players? They were in limbo with the Deshaun Watson contract. Then they trade Deshaun Watson to the Browns. And of course, that's one of their big opportunities. And I'm sure they looked at, as critical as I was about the Will Anderson trade and everything, I'm sure they were looking at all this extra draft capital that they got for one Deshaun Watson and said, okay, we're able to be a little bit more aggressive for guys like Will Anderson and to make those moves. I didn't read or listen to it exactly, but I saw the rankings on Twitter, so that's how you do things, right? You just saw the headline, let's respond.
Yeah.
But Kev Cole, former PFFer, and rest in peace, and Ben Baldwin went through and they ranked the front offices every year, and I think they put the Texans in the bottom 5 this year. They put them low. And again, without listening, I'm just gonna guess.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you do things here. They're both very process oriented, and I assume that they're looking at the Houston Texans process and saying, okay, do they deserve credit for C.J. Stroud? So there's a lot of the analytics folks who would look at decisions and say, do the Lions deserve credit for drafting Aiden Hutchinson? That was the obvious, right? Well, in the Texans, they just happened to be the number 2 pick that year. Who knows if they actually would have drafted Bryce Young if they had the number 1 pick. But they had the number 2 pick. The Panthers made the decision for them, and the consensus pick was C.J. Stroud. They made the decision that was correct. And then they gave up 3 high draft picks for Will Anderson. And so is their process actually sound in how they got here? And that's probably the criticism there. I don't think I'm not. So my point is I disagree with. I'm not necessarily going to go down that path, that they are not doing a good job and just kind of stumbled into this. I think that once they realized, whether they stumbled upon C.J. Stroud or not, and were aggressive to go get Will Anderson, I like that they've been aggressive this offseason. It has offset, and when they were making all those non-aggressive moves, here's our special teamer, here's Desmond King who's going to play in the slot, and they were spending $4 to $6 million for 20 players. I do think there was some culture shift in there. I do think there was some long-term thought into some of those moves. Maybe not like those guys are a part of the team right now, but just kind of resetting things in Houston. So I want to give them credit for that, whether they deserve it or not, and give them credit for going and getting Stephon Diggs. Call me, I like shiny objects, but Stephon Diggs, to go with what Nico Collins and Tank Dell showed last year, and Noah Brown, former top recruit who looked like a stud at times with C.J. Stroud. So I think the Texans deserve credit for, after whether they were lucky or not to get Stroud, now realizing the moment, realizing the 3-year window that they have, and going after it.
You see they traded for Ben Skoranek as well? I meant to text Bobby about that because that just struck me as quite a funny trade.
Well, they need a fullback.
Right.
They
fullback
need need a receiver who can play fullback.
The trade, wide receiver.
It was one of those, like, this is the minimum we could possibly trade, right? Because it was Skoranek and a 7.
It was a swap of
2026 7.
It was a 6 to a 7, but it might have been 2. It might have been moving down in both the 6th and the 7th.
I just saw Skoranek and a 7 for a 6.
Okay, so yeah, the way the tweet I saw was worded could have been either moving down in 2 different consecutive rounds, or it could have been swapping a 6th for a 7th. Either way, it's not much.
Where does he fit in on
the other move, by the way, that they made that's a very sort of short-term-ish move is Joe Mixon, a running back.
And Mixon, yeah.
So, like, I'm not saying any of these are bad moves at all, and in fact, I think all of them made them better, but at least 2 of those moves, Donnell Hunter, Stephon Diggs, and Joe Mixon, seem like quite short shelf life moves for a team that expects to be good for like the next several years. You know, like the window for them, such as these things exist, just opened, right? CJ Stroud rocks up. He's amazing. Will Anderson's good. You just nail 2 picks. Window starts to open. What they've done is like, let's throw as much at this window as possible. Cram everything through the window while it's open. Quick, Mixon, Diggs, shove it all through.
That's the point, but the window's not going to close, even if you do overpay or Hunter regresses over the next couple of years and Diggs is really only a 1-year option. You have money to play with heading into the 25 season as well. You have
but compare
the window's open, man.
But compare this approach to like how the Lions are doing things, right? Like they have sort of very steadfastly avoided those types of moves. They've gone, no, we want everything we do wants to be in the optimal zone to try and keep this window open for as long as possible, as opposed to let's shove as much through the window as now that it's open as we can. It's just, I mean, I'm not saying either of these things is right or wrong. It's just these are 2 interesting, contrasting approaches to what appears to be a similarly opening Super Bowl window.
So, Steve over here, third person. Steve has a short memory too. I may have copy and pasted my same take from the Chargers after they realized they had Justin Herbert, and then then it's like, oh, we're going to trade for Khalil Mack and we're going to load up and hasn't necessarily worked out, but I still like that approach. I think that's the way to go.
Okay.
Even if it didn't work for the Chargers, off the top of my head.
All right.
Teams that have tried it.
Okay.
All right, who else you got in the most improved list? I mean, one or 2 more teams. There's one other team that I definitely want to mention.
Can the Jets count for getting Aaron Rodgers back?
Yeah.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
I mean, now, outside of that, they might have gotten worse. Like, numbers 2 through 53 on the roster might be worse heading into 2024 than they were heading into 2023. But theoretically, you get Aaron Rodgers for more than 4 snaps this time.
I want to say this. This is very anecdotal. But in the many years that we've been doing this, I do feel like most off seasons, it's easy to build optimism for a team, right? It's easy to build optimism, and you think, oh, they've made these moves. Overall, they're going to be better. But there's usually like 1 or 2 teams that I highlight where it's like, it doesn't feel as good, right? It doesn't feel like they got better. A couple years ago, I remember it was the Cowboys. Yeah. Didn't feel like they improved. Then the next year, they offset it, felt like they improved. Either way, they still landed at 12 wins and lost in the playoffs. That's what they did. This offseason feels like maybe more of the good teams may have regressed a touch. It feels less comfortable for teams like, say, the Ravens, with the way they've been just gutted from a coaching and front office and offensive line, player and overall player standpoint. Do the Ravens feel a little bit worse? The Bills maybe feel a little bit worse. I get it, youth movement, but it just feels a little bit worse. The Cowboys, again, feels a little bit worse than they were. Anecdotally, I think there's a few more teams that are like that, whereas you could build optimism for these other teams. But to your point on the Jets, I was going to say, yeah, you can cheat and say, okay, it's not necessarily because of the decisions that they made, but yeah, like with Aaron Rodgers coming back, they should be much better.
Yeah, and I do think it's cheating. I mean, Rodgers is already there. They're just getting him back.
It's okay. This isn't an official list. There aren't rules here. We're not breaking rules. It's our show, Sam.
Yeah.
We could do whatever we want.
Right, and my preference would be to disqualify them. But Tyron Smith coming in at left tackle, Olu Fashanu in the draft to back up Tyron Smith, who will miss some time injured because he always does. The great Morgan Moses coming in to man the other tackle spot. John Simpson, all right, that's less exciting, but theoretically is another potential upgrade at guard. The offensive line is what I'm saying has been fairly significantly rebuilt in a way that should materially affect the play of Aaron Rodgers and not have him running for his life for the first 4 snaps he drops back. Now, the flip side of that is they had some losses on the defensive line. They lost Bryce Huff, who was the most productive, small sample size, situational pass rusher, if you like, in the NFL for the last 2 seasons. They lost him in free agency. They also traded away John Franklin Myers, which is a move I don't really understand, for a team, again, that theoretically is in a win-now Super Bowl window. Why would you get rid of a player that is good?
Brought in Hassan Reddick.
No, that's true.
Got Will McDonald.
Yeah, but
Brought in Javon Kinlaw.
This is what I'm saying, that if the totality, the net of the 2024 defensive line, I don't think looks as strong right now as the net of the 2023 defensive line. Very minimum, it's a wash.
Yeah, and then the boomer bust nature here is not only is it Tyron Smith, who you mentioned, will get injured more often than not, at least a little bit, or at least have to play injured, whatever it might be. Mike Williams coming off injury at receiver. Aaron Rodgers coming off injury. But if all those guys are healthy, yeah, the Jets are much better. And that's a nice compliment. Mike Williams is a really nice compliment to what Garrett Wilson brings as your high volume target at receiver. And Alan Lazard catching slants from Rodgers if he's still there.
I forget who made this point. It might have been Will Parkinson when I was on his podcast, was saying that one thing about the Fashanu pick that I think is really good for the Jets, not only is Fashanu a backup plan insurance for if and when Tyron Smith inevitably gets hurt during the season, he has to play 4 games, because Tyron Smith is always hurt, veteran, he doesn't practice basically anymore.
The practice rep.
So you're going to get Fashanu effectively a starting set of practice reps all the way through the season and have him there as insurance for if and when Tyron Smith. A lot of these guys that if they're not going to start, they're getting backup reps throughout the year, and that's not helping them a lot, So they're trying to get better based off like a smattering of reps at the end of the practice, whereas Fashanu is potentially getting all of the reps at left tackle and then just not necessarily playing until Tyron Smith eventually gets hurt to the point where he can't suit up this week. So it's actually a great landing spot for him, not just for that insurance policy, the fact that he's probably going to play some this year, but he gets to practice probably for the entirety of the year without having to necessarily go out there. They can seriously work on his technique, his sets, his footwork, all the things that need cleaning up just a little bit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
We can fix that while we wait for him to have to get out there.
It's a good point. Not surprised it came from a Jets podcast.
Right.
That's good. Look, it's optimism season. By the way, are you with me? I've declared over the last couple of years I will buy into all rookie minicamp, hype. Did you see Keon Coleman the other day?
No.
Wide open.
Wait, the rep where he just ran a post against Air?
A little curl.
Oh, okay.
Against Air.
All right.
Wide open, though.
Got it. Yeah.
Just saying. Separation. Open.
Yeah.
Open targets for Josh Allen. I'm here for all of it.
I'm only here for the bits that look impressive.
Okay, fine.
If they don't look
Jahmyr
impressive,
Gibbs cooking a linebacker and one-on-ones during training
you
camp.
show me a rep that looks amazing, I'm in. You show me a rep that looks like just a regular practice rep.
No, the on-air ones.
So
We need the all-timer for me was Giants Twitter declaring victory. Daniel Jones rookie season.
Yeah,
on a swing pass.
Did you? So
that was a little high too, I think.
One thing that I saw a video of, I think it was Ladd McConkey, and the Guardian caps, the big scrum caps on top of the helmets, those really don't help small players.
No.
Because they make your head look absurdly large, and now a small player looks even smaller by comparison to his own head.
You look like the little alien guy on the Flintstones.
The alien
little
guy.
green guy.
Oh, yeah. What the hell was he called?
Look him up.
Yeah. No,
Kazoo?
I know what you mean.
Kazoo?
Kazoo?
Kazoo? Gazoo? What?
I don't know. I know who you mean, though. You're right.
Flintstone alien guy. Can we get a picture of the Flintstone alien guy? This is a Guardian.
Eli in the booth doesn't know any word you just said. He's not.
Flintstones was
he's not aware of any of that.
This was a cartoon.
It's a cartoon beyond, like, before our time, let alone his time. Like
it trailed into our time.
No, they were still showing reruns in our time, but like wasn't that from like the '60s or whatever?
It's Gazoo.
Okay, with a G.
With a G, I nailed it.
Yeah, well
that's
done.
that's the Guardian cap guys look like.
Yeah, but anyway, what I'm saying is the Guardian cap is not friendly to already small-looking human beings when they put them on, because they somehow get made to look even smaller in relative to their own head. Did you see that we had the Dr. Alan Sills, the NFL's chief medical, whatever he is. 2 years in a row, we've had him on at the Super Bowl. Oh, here we go.
Comes.
Eli, there you go.
There he is.
Look at that.
It's the Guardian caps.
Now
the original design for the Guardian.
Can you quickly Photoshop Lad McConkey's face and his number in there, and then we've nailed it.
That's what we're here for.
So yeah, we had him on 2 years in a row at the Super Bowl talking about various things, and one of the things we asked him about this year was if the Guardian caps are supposedly better for preventing concussions, why are they not now used in game? And he was like, well, you've got to trial these things. You don't know what, unintended consequences might come from it, yada, yada, yada. It gave out a long and pretty good, actually, to be fair, explanation of why that hadn't happened. They have now been cleared and approved for use in game.
Great line by Dr. Allen. I mean, that was just months before they approved it.
Right. But
he just BS'd us all the way through the answer.
I wonder how many people are actually going to use those in game, if any. Like, because it's not like I don't think players love those things, and yet it's like, all right, training camp.
Are they putting logos on these things? I
don't know.
I mean, it's bad for. I don't want to sound like whatever, but it's bad for branding.
Sure,
like,
but it also raises the question again, which keeps coming up. Like, if that is a better mechanism for preventing concussion, why have we not fundamentally redesigned helmets so that it's not a hard shell on the outside? Like, if that. Because that's effectively a modified scrum cap, right? Yeah. The thing you know as a guy that's, where's your picture? As a man that's worn scrum caps now, right? That's what it is. It's just a giant modified scrum cap that goes on over the helmet, right? But the theory appears to be that if the absorbing padding is on the outside as opposed to the inside, it's better for you than having a hard shell cracking and moving your head around. So if that's the case, why have we not fundamentally decided on a complete redesign of helmets? And you kind of come back to the answer that you hit on, which is it's an aesthetic thing. It's branding. It's harder to make a scrum cap have a Texans logo down the side of it than it is, a hard shell. Like, is that what's keeping us away from unscrambling the brains of NFL players?
It might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would raise some questions about how much you really care about player safety.
And I'm over here asking about the branding and can you get a logo on those things? But yeah, it's a good point by you. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't even remember how we got onto that. Lad McConkey and his small.
I got down the rabbit hole of
training camp videos,
mini camp videos. Yes. Okay. The other most improved team that I wanted to mention was the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh. Because
we're going to spend this whole offseason talking about Michael Penix Jr. and that decision, and forget the fact that they're going from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins at quarterback, and just that.
Yeah.
And Arthur Smith's offense to Zach Robinson's offense. But yeah, just having Kirk in the building, bringing in Darnell Mooney to complement Drake London and Kyle Pitts at tight end, Charlie Warner as a blocking tight end, and again a defense that I think they were feisty last year, feisty defense last year. So I think the Falcons should be much improved.
No, it's a good point. The Kirk Cousins thing is almost being viewed as this like buyer's remorse folly, whereas actually just treat them as independent transactions. The Kirk Cousins move is what makes them favored for this division. They just went from a team with no quarterback at all to a team that at the very minimum is getting a top 10 caliber quarterback who's gotten a really good track record of impressive quarterback play with a good situation, which is still there. Really good offensive line in front of him, really good group of receivers to throw to in totality. And remember, they added like a couple of smaller pieces as well. They added Darnell Mooney, who, Bears fans were talking up as like, he could be the guy. And okay, that didn't happen, but how much of that was Justin Fields. Like, Darnell Mooney is an interesting player to add to that. They added Rondale Moore for like a throwaway addition, right? Rondale Moore is an interesting gimmick.
Ray McLeod.
In a similar mold, albeit a wildly different body type to the Traylon Burks thing we were talking about earlier. You're the designated gimmick in this offense. And then Ray McLeod from the offense that they're familiar with. Like, this is a really good offense, theoretically, top to bottom, for Kirk Cousins to work in, and a good system with Zach Robinson operating some version of the Sean McVay offense. That should immediately make this offense really good and enough to propel them to the top spot in that division.
Yeah, so that's part of the Kirk Cousins experience, which I'm not going to rehash the whole Michael Penix Jr. conversation again for the 5th straight show. But with Kirk Cousins, relative to what they got last year, where Arthur Smith was making funny faces every time Desmond Ridder had to throw a red zone pick, or was literally losing games with some of his decision making. Not that you always look at, well, last year everything will be exactly the same, and then Kirk Cousins will just be better than Ridder, therefore the Falcons will be better. But this is a drastic improvement. Cousins has been playing some of the best football of his career over the last couple of years, and I know he's coming off of an injury as well.
Yeah.
But that's why the Michael Penix Jr. thing was not a buyer's remorse thing. If you are honest about yourself, or to yourself, and you say, 2 years from now, are we going to say, yeah, Kirk Cousins upgraded us, but we want a little bit more, but we're ready to move on, like Washington was, like Minnesota was, and in age 37, 38, whatever it is for Cousins. That's why that move is made, not because they're unhappy with what Kirk Cousins is going to bring to the table in 2024. So, yeah, the Falcons should be an improved team, especially offensively.
Yep, I agree. I mean, this, like that, as long as you just treat them as independent entity or independent transactions. The Kirk Cousins move was one of the single biggest off-season additions in the entire NFL. Like we were talking at free agency time, there is one high-level veteran quarterback available this offseason, and it's Kirk Cousins. Like that's why Atlanta was able to get him, because they were willing to go from a contractual point of view to a place the Vikings weren't. Like the Vikings, had nobody been willing to go and make that contract, the Vikings would have kept Kirk Cousins. They would have had him, in the building for whatever compromise deal a 35-year-old coming off an Achilles actually should get. But he's the one guy. So Atlanta was willing to go somewhere that the Vikings weren't, and that's how he ends up changing teams. But that's all because Kirk Cousins was the one guy available at that kind of caliber this offseason.
All right, the one last team I just wanted to highlight quickly, and not because someone in the chat keeps mentioning them, but the Philadelphia Eagles. Are they one of the most improved teams, but for different reasons, right? They were sitting there at 10-1 at one point last year, going through a gauntlet of teams and beating them, and then just fell apart down the stretch. They fell apart I don't know that I've ever seen it at the level that they did, but they were so good early on that they had to go into the playoffs, and they felt like the worst playoff team going in, and they looked like the worst playoff team in the playoffs. But it's the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator changes. Bringing in Kellen Moore instead of Brian Johnson, this offense was just not prepared for any sort of 5-man rush, any sort of blitz last year. So Kellen Moore comes in, and then Vic Fangio on the defensive side of the ball on a defense that just kept blowing coverages and just could not figure things out. They were bringing in giving the reins to Matt Patricia down the stretch. Maybe just the coaching stability and all of the multiple years of good moves from Howie Roseman in this front office should have the Eagles as a most improved team.
So you might be able to sell it to me in terms of that coaching overhaul. But from a roster standpoint, it's not immediately apparent to me that they're better than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're just saying we don't have parameters for, what's most improved team? It's our own show.
Right.
We can make it up. If we're saying player for player, are they a better team than last year? Maybe not.
I think that's entirely debatable, because every addition you can point to there's not necessarily a corresponding, but there's a balancing loss, right? So, they added Bryce Huff. Yeah, but they lost Hassan Reddick, right? They added Saquon Barkley. Yeah, but Jason Kelsey retired. Like there's a counterweight to every one of these big moves that they made in terms of additions.
They did get less athletic losing Jason Kelsey and adding Saquon Barkley. That is a good point.
That's true. And they added Devin White, which makes them worse if he plays. So, there's some problems.
Subtraction by addition.
Right. Yes, the rare subtraction by addition. But I do think, and look, the draft was outstanding, right? But because it's a draft, they're rookies. You don't necessarily know how much of an impact those guys are going to make. Could be amazing, right? If they nail every one of those picks, if it's as good as it looked, that draft could propel them in a different direction. But if they just sort of hit a baseline of rookie expectations, it's probably not made them that much better. But I do think you can absolutely sell me on the idea of they went from problematic on both sides of the ball in terms of coaches to good on both sides of the ball. Minimum good, right? With the potential to be outstanding. I mean, Vic Fangio's system is still the current, in vogue system right now, and he is the finest proponent, exponent of that defense. So theoretically, that could be an amazing unit. And Kellen Moore, minimum, I think you're talking about a good offensive coach, and we don't quite know where he can get to in terms of what he can bring to the table with the group. So going from where they were a year ago to where they are now on the coaching side, I think is definitely one of the biggest upgrades of the offseason. But overall, you certainly can't, I don't think, make the argument just by looking at their roster.
All right, so we got a call to make here. So those are your most improved teams. The other most improved teams are your favorite team. Your team, they got better.
Okay.
The rookies, look, it's a big playbook. Dan Orlovsky did a video the other day showing how big the playbook is, how difficult it is for rookies to pick up the playbook. But your rookies, they're picking it up. They're ready to go. And they're looking sharp in rookie minicamp, better than we expected. So we're happy for that, all 32 of you. Your team's looking great in rookie minicamp. Wait till the veterans get there for minicamp. They're gonna be practicing football plays and ready to go. And by training camp, it's like Super Bowl or bust for all of you. So all your teams are most improved. We just highlighted a few rather than others.
Okay.
But it's all 32 that are better because it's May.
All right.
Now, we could wait on the bet review and turn that into a whole different show. Because we're over now, but we have almost 900 crazy people watching us live here in mid-May.
I feel like you're overestimating the interest in a bet review show.
People want to know how the predictions went.
Yeah,
I
feel like we should just hammer that out now rather than
I know.
trying to make a show out of it.
I just can't believe we just did an hour on that.
Two of the things we do every offseason. Oh, so what we should really do is get people to. We've now reached. It's May the 13th, right? We've reached off-season season. So all of the ridiculous things that we do in the offseason that you guys love, now's the time to pitch those ideas. So NFLpodcast@pff.com. If you have an off-season content idea for us, we are willing to do. The crazier, the better, frankly. But we're willing to do pretty much anything. But what we do every year is we have one show for reasons for optimism for every NFL team and reasons for pessimism. Pessimism we have relatively covered. But usually,
you want to do that again?
Well, usually we bring in somebody that can do the optimistic side, right? We've done the late Austin Gale, who was all about optimism, and Trevor Sikkema has been all about optimism.
Was it last year you went on your trip?
I don't even remember. No, it wasn't. Can't have been last year, right?
Wasn't it last year?
Was it? Whatever.
I don't know. One of the years. No, maybe it's 2 years ago. One of the years you were just gone.
Yeah.
It might have been last year. You were gone for like 3 straight weeks.
Was it really last year?
And I had to fill in all the shows. So I had to do optimism with Trevor because he's great at being optimistic and you're not.
Right. Trevor's good at optimism and Austin Gale is good at optimism.
Yeah, but you got him for the pessimistic show, and that was like the best off-season show we did 3 years ago, whatever it was.
That's true.
Anyway, we'll do that. We could go back to our expansion draft. We'll do our draft, build our expansion teams. We'll do our draft watch-alongs.
I need to cut my entire team and start over.
Maybe have a good draft. Are you going to double up at QB this year? That's a question. Are you going to? So you have Bryce Young on your expansion team.
Yeah, that hasn't gone well.
Do we get the top 2 picks again? Were we bad? I don't know. I don't know how we predict where we select in the draft.
There's no way I don't end up with the number 1 overall pick.
You probably have the number 1 overall pick, and you'll get Caleb Williams.
I'm good with that.
And I had C.J. Stroud on my team. Does that mean I made the playoffs? And I'm picking in the 20s?
I don't know. But unlike what's the guy's name? The guy, the one who organized the whole thing that we defaulted to his.
Yeah, we'll get his.
We need him to to define some rules as to how we're doing this going forward. But I will not be sticking with my Bryce. I'm sorry, you like Bryce Young in real life have been set up to fail quite spectacularly by the roster that was around you. I am sorry for that. That's on me. I am nevertheless holding you accountable for that and going with Caleb Williams.
think there's a way to do. If we add up the WAR values on every team and then just kind of like slot them in, we could project a win total off that.
Okay.
So there's some things we can do. It'll take some work. Who the heck wants to do that? No, it'll be fun. All right, let's go through these. These were your bets.
You have the sheet handy?
Yeah. These were your bets or predictions before the draft, where you said these are the things that are going to happen. These are the things that we predict. Vault me. These are the things that are going to happen before the draft, and we accepted as bets to keep an eye on. You ready?
Yep.
Ryan Kinsey says Drake May will not be drafted in the first round.
Okay.
That was a loss. Ben Grethel. Just 3 QBs will not be taken in the first. Will be taken in the first round.
Ooh, yeah.
You lost that pretty quickly. You want to add in win and loss here while I'm
Your
reading them?
sheet doesn't work.
What?
Your sheet isn't working.
What did I do?
You broke it.
Where did it go? There we go. Is that the right link that I sent you?
Yeah. It's the right link. It's just not it's not automated the way it is on my sheet.
Oh yeah, I didn't automate. I don't think I set up automations or anything on it.
Oh,
I just typed in loss on the first one.
Yeah. One of mine, if I click loss, it automatically tallies it
Well,
for
you
us.
gave up on it, so
Yeah,
I don't
but
have the automatic.
you could have
tally.
just copied the sheet.
Either way, Ben owes us double Kirkland coffee, I guess,
Sweet.
for predicting 3 QBs in the first round. Jonas Leon, 3 QBs in the first round, same prediction. You're going to lose that.
Yeah, a lot of people were predicting a sort of anti-quarterback run,
Yeah.
a version of the 2020 draft. No, 21?
22 draft.
22 draft.
Kenny
that's it.
Pickett being the
yeah,
only
yeah.
first rounder.
The Kenny Pickett year, where it's like
Or
none of
last
these
year
guys
where there was 3 QBs and then Levis fell. 23.
Right.
Yeah. Philly Joe. Wait, Graham Hackney was wrong. Said there'll be a running back taken in the first round.
Yep.
Wrong.
Nope.
Philly Joe calling my shot now. Cornerback Wiggins for Howie. He kind of got screwed by Quinyon Mitchell's fall.
Right. Yeah.
Because it could have been true. Could have been true, but it did not
We
happen.
haven't lost a bet yet.
Ryan Euler. Like to wager that only 3 wide receivers are drafted in the first round. That did not happen as well. Josh Smith predicted the Chargers taking Talise Fuaga, whether they trade the pick or stay at 5. No, they took Joe Alt. Josh Smith also had a really fun one. The Saints and Broncos swapping first-round picks. Sean Payton will call and trade, and none of this happened. Sean Payton was going to trade up for an offensive tackle or something. Is that right? But they didn't.
Yeah.
Cole Novak said, barring landing spot, Taj Washington and Javon Baker will have better rookie seasons than either Texas rookie wide receiver. We do not have enough information yet. We need football to be played for this.
Yeah, we do.
Sean Smollett has Peyton Wilson selected in the first round.
Nope.
False. Did not happen here. Alex Montenegro, the overhyped J.J. McCarthy will not be drafted in the first round.
And that means we get exploding Wales gear.
Yes, that's right. An NFL team fails to submit their draft selection. Neither one happened. Exploding Wales gear. Send it over, Alex.
Nice.
Nobody won anything yet.
You know what I've discovered?
Here we go. Here's a winner.
You know what I've discovered since going bald?
What? Your real head size rather than one with hair.
Yes. Your hair, turns out, takes up a surprising amount of the cap room, right?
That's correct.
When there is no hair, there's like a gap here that does like the thing sits up in space above your head in a way that's not pleasant. You need to find like apparently caps. I Googled this recently, right? There is a thing called a low profile cap, which apparently like removes the hair room.
You lose the netting. You lose the
You just lose like a centimeter or 2 of space up here, which is where the hair sits. But
what's your
the
head size?
doesn't.
Like a 6?
It was like a reasonable size when it had hair. Now I don't know what it is, but it doesn't fit most caps, is what I'm saying. So apparently you need a low. So what I'm saying is, stick with a T-shirt with the exploding whale gear, because the cap. Caps, it's just not gonna.
I can't take a normal exploding whale's cap.
I can no longer. I'm one of these people that needs like custom headgear now because the stupid caps don't sit on my small bald head. These are the things you learn when you don't have hair.
I mean, when I grew my hair out, I learned I need more hat.
Yeah,
I need bigger hat.
Now you'll learn this once it keeps, once the hair retreats far enough.
You got some years here. All right, Jacob Lade, we have a winner here.
Oh.
He predicted a run on QBs, wide receivers, offensive tackles, and a tight end. So the first 12 picks will be offensive players.
Good call.
That was all correct.
And he went as far as 12, yeah.
He said 12. Other people said 10. So there are some other winners that are in here, usually if you predicted offensive players.
Yep.
This one we won't know until football's played. This Declan O'Neil predicting that Brian Thomas Jr. will be top 2 in the class his first year in war.
Okay.
Thomas McCann, the past 2 years he's predicting at least 5 first-round quarterbacks and 7 in the first 2 rounds. Now, this is a tough one. We had 6 in round 1, 0 in round 2.
And he said, and.
He said, and, not or. And.
That's rough.
Not or.
Talked yourself out of it with the last.
So he said
bit.
5 in the first round, winner, and 7 in the second round, loser.
Yeah.
However, I did add a comment here. He thanked us for our off-season rambles, and I feel like maybe
I feel like given that we only had 1 so far, we can
we'll
just
call that a winner.
We'll
Because he was nice to us in his
it's
email.
our show and we cheat, so
We could do
let's
that.
call him a win.
PFF plus winner, Thomas McCann. Rachel B. Misses this one, says that Joe Alt will not be among the first 2 offensive tackles selected. This one was close. Wyatt Charter says Jalen Polk will be drafted ahead of Ladd McConkey. That just missed.
How close was that?
Like 2 picks.
33 versus 35?
Let me just confirm that, but the Chargers did select him ahead of Polk, right?
Yeah, definitely. But
Because the Patriots traded down.
Oh, yeah. Because Ladd McConkey was one of the receivers that went between in the Bills trading down mess, right? So he went at 33, right? The top of the second.
Yes.
And then Polk went somewhere in the 30s.
So just missed on that one. But they both went, let me just get just happened many weeks ago.
Yeah.
Tough to remember.
Well, we're old.
Ladd McConkey went at 34. Polk went
34.
at 37.
Okay.
So that is it's a loss
It is.
by the rules. Teddy predicted that the Dolphins will draft a wide receiver on day 1.
Not your son, right?
Not my son.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. He may have. I don't know. It
So you got that kind of unrestricted internet access?
could have been him. This was the cryptic one from Brian Poles
Yeah.
about the Chicago Bears pick swapping their 9th pick with the Cowboys and trading a Cowboys veteran.
This is the
or
guy
whole
that
thing.
suggested inside information that if he had it, was wrong.
Don't ask me how I know this.
Yes.
He says. Well, you didn't know it, so I'm not going to ask.
We might
how
have
you
known
knew
it, but whoever told him was wrong.
It didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Mark Mercer predicted that Mike Sanderstill, little Mikey, was going to get drafted in the first round. Did not happen.
Little Mikey.
Second rounder for the Washington Commanders. Mark Treasurer says the Cardinals ended up taking at least 3 players in this first round. They only took their 2. They only took their 2 allotted first rounders.
Which means we win coffee.
Some London coffee
Is that
from Mark Treasurer.
what is London coffee?
It just means it's from London.
But
I think he's in London. He's going to send us something from
Okay. Because they don't
It's
grow.
a city in England.
I know that, but they don't grow coffee in London. You know, it's not a coffee.
A London-based company
Okay.
or something. Don't they have some colonies or something that grow coffee for them?
They certainly did. Yeah. I don't know how many they've got now. I think there were some things that happened that reduced the footprint of the British Empire.
All right. Philip Erickson predicted 3 centers will go round 1. 3 centers will go in round 1. That did not happen because Zach Frazier did fall to the second round.
And that was assuming
That
Graham
was
Barton.
given Graham Barton declared as center, which he did. So Graham Barton was the only center
Yeah.
drafted
The
in
other
the
two
first
fell.
round. JPJ and Frazier went in the second round.
Correct.
Joe Lasky was leaning into the top golf test that Michael Penix Jr. was going to get picked by the Commanders, potentially at number 2, potentially trading down.
So this is interesting because, okay, the specifics he went with are wrong, right? His hot take prediction is that Michael Penix would get picked by the Commanders but his reasoning is because he dominated the top golf test. And as we know, looking back at the last 25 drafts, the top golf test is clearly the best indicator of quarterback performance. Now, I'm almost inclined to give him credit for that because, okay, he didn't get drafted at 2 to the Commanders. He did, however, get drafted in the top 10 when nobody saw that coming.
To give him credit, we would have to go speak to our friends in the industry and say, look, Falcons, who picked him, did the reports coming out of Top Golf have any influence whatsoever
We should
on your decision?
We should definitely ask that question.
Yeah. And would you be willing to disseminate that information on our show? Now, one more thing I haven't broached yet is prior to the draft, Zach suggested that he could, join the show.
Yeah, we
some
need to get
point.
Zach on the show.
After the draft, however, I wonder if the Falcons can be like, we just don't
want to do PR
We just
anymore.
did something pretty bold here. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. I think we want to control the message from the top,
I think Zach would know that on this show, he could expect some. I'm not going to say that we would compromise our journalistic integrity, but there may be a softball pitch or two.
Are we journalists?
I mean, I have a master's degree in journalism.
I don't.
I am a qualified journalist. I'm a tremendously qualified journalist, in fact.
Good for you.
Don't do any journalism, but
proud
I'm
of you.
very qualified.
This is your big opportunity. You broke that news that one time about the Irish guys, didn't you? Didn't you break some news or something?
I don't know. They're all trying out this week. It's like rookie mini camps and stuff. So one guy, Charlie
Be
Smith.
reporting on that.
Charlie Smith was actually signed to the New Orleans Saints a few weeks ago. But a couple of the other guys were in tryouts this weekend. Mark Jackson, I think, was the guy that was with the Steelers. Rory Began, I think, was with the Carolina Panthers. So multiple of those IPP guys, the kickers, have been on active tryouts this weekend.
It's good.
Yeah. And it's funny. So the Lewis Rees-Zammit thing, the Welsh rugby player with the
I
Chiefs.
didn't even think of him for most improved. Like, the Chiefs are way better.
I know, right? He is now a fascinating nexus of ignorance on both sides, right? So you've got all the football people that don't even know that Wales is like a country, right? There was apparently, I couldn't find the actual document. I could only find the quote graphic, but somebody had claimed apparently that Lewis Rees-Zammit was the best rugby player that the city of Wales has ever produced, which is wrong in every way, not just the fact that Wales isn't a city, at least not in Wales. It's a city, I think, in several places in the U.S., but it's a country. Number two, he's not even close to being the best player that Wales has ever produced. But anyway, so you've got the Americans who know nothing about Wales, rugby, or him, right? And then you've got the Welsh people who know nothing about American football. Then these just firing ignorance across the Atlantic in both directions. It's fascinating.
You know both.
Yeah.
You're
and
an
nobody's talking to me.
Expert in American football and the British Isles. So you know.
Yeah.
Also,
and nobody's coming to me for any information.
I'm also a British Isles
except
expert.
on this show. You are. You've seen a map and everything.
Yeah. I know how you feel about Wales. I know all about it. All right. So Joe.
So we can't give him credit for that. But
I'll tell you this: if
tip of the cap for getting something.
If we dig and find inside information about Topgolf having any influence on the Falcons
retrospectively,
we will send Joe an email and give him a PFF plus, even if we can't announce it on air. Okay, I give you my word. I'm not saying I'm going to try to track down this inside information, but if it comes up.
If it comes up in conversation.
Check with Zach. There we go.
There you go.
Jacob Smith, we bet a coffee that the Patriots trade down from 3 and later trade up for quarterback. Well, we know that didn't happen.
We do.
That did not happen. Tim Allen, Toolman, comes up with 10 picks in this year's draft are going to be on offense.
If it's the real Toolman, it feels like he could do better than Coffee.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad. He had Tacoma Campfire Coffee on the line here, and we're not going to win that because Tim wins. He's going to win a PFF.
But it feels like it was the real Toolman. He could offer some muscle car or something.
He could get us to some Lions games or something.
That too, yeah.
I was watching a little old home improvement show the other day randomly.
Yeah? It's a good show.
Yeah, it's a great show. It was a good one. It was actually is on like the Roku channel.
Okay.
They're just showing some old stuff. I don't know. I was clicking through. It was on. And it was a Thanksgiving episode where he got to go to the luxury box at the Silverdome at the Lions game. And then he blew the circuit and the whole thing, the lights went out.
Yep.
And then Rodney Dangerfield showed up. It was a great episode.
Good episode.
Great episode. Toward the end of their run there at Home Improvement. So appreciate the Toolman listening. Zach Gelfand says the Bears will trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, this is our gift card to the brewery place.
Oh, yes. So now we have to go
to Chicago.
Nice. Good job losing that, Zach. So we'll go $500 gift card to Tonality Brewing.
Let's Google this place. What's it like?
So we're going to go to Chicagoland. It's 20 minutes. We're going to have to make a trip.
Menu.
How about for we'll schedule a release on Wednesday. If the Bears are hosting a Thursday night game.
Oh, that would be good.
We can go on a Thursday. We'll go to a Thursday night game, make a little trip.
That would be good.
That's a really good idea. I hope
really
the Bears.
is.
Did the Bears host Thursday night football last year?
Finally, for the first time ever, I'm interested in the schedule.
See, this is why people do schedule releases. How many Thursday games can we go to? You know, that's big.
I don't know.
So I'm excited about that. Levon Myers. Now this I brought this one up on the show because it was in play. His bet was that A.D. Mitchell was the 23rd overall pick, regardless of what team was picking there.
Right.
And the Jags had traded down to 23 and did pick a receiver. It happened to be Brian Thomas Jr. But I loved the boldness of this. Of course, A.D. Mitchell fell to pick 45, I believe it was, with the Colts. Levon Myers, by the way. So that's a loss.
You left yourself a note. How to pronounce his name.
Yeah, because I said Levon
And still screwed it up.
instinctively. But then I saw the note that said Levon. Not a journalist. I tell you all the truth here.
No, you're not.
Nonstop. That's
Very
not.
not.
That's the opposite of journalistic integrity.
Your only qualification is in baseball. What's your degree in?
Management information systems and finance.
Huh.
So basically,
What is that?
it's basically like what I'm doing now, product managing. It was like it was a complex term for product managing back in the early 2000s.
Got it. Okay.
So IT management basically, and then finance, double major.
Wow.
So it's a business degree with a double concentration. So it sounds like a double major, like, oh, I did two things, but it's really,
Right.
all you had to do is like take the right.
So
group
you're
of classes and you
qualified.
double
You're
up.
qualified to really. You're qualified to be a professional baseball player and operate as your own agent.
Yeah, maybe run the cap for some teams and everything.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can do it
Okay.
all. Basically, GM
Yeah, I guess.
for baseball or football,
Right.
given my history.
Well, now, yeah, but in terms of like qualification,
should double
just
up.
the baseball.
Another really quick aside. No, I'm not even going to get into it. No, but so I watch old baseball games in the background every now and
Along
again,
with the old football games and the old
football
draft
games,
games.
old games.
And the old drafts.
They were talking about. I mean, I
You watch
forget-
old baseball drafts as well? Is that fun?
baseball drafts. No,
4,500
they're
picks?
horrible. They're horrible.
Yeah,
No, there's no baseball drafts.
right.
Actually, I heard this somewhere else. But apparently, in like the late '80s and early '90s, there was an executive for the Braves. So he did baseball and basketball. He was like GM of the Hawks,
Okay.
but also vice president of the Braves. Like something ridiculous. And I'm just like, was the job that easy back then that you could just double up? It's the off season for baseball. I think I'll just run the Hawks.
Maybe he was just the Deion Sanders of GMing.
I looked into it further. I don't think he was I think he was like real GM for the Braves and then like just kind of an executive above the GM, but not making the day-to-day with the Hawks or vice versa, whatever it was.
Okay.
But it sounded like an awesome thing to just literally be able to run a couple different teams.
Sure.
You know, I could do that, is what I'm saying. All right, coffee and donuts for the office versus subscription that says Jaden Daniels would be the 4th quarterback drafted. We know that didn't happen.
So we win coffee and donuts.
Sadar combo is going to have to send us coffee and donuts to the office.
Nice.
And the last one is Bobby Lloyd. The Lions' first pick in the draft will be a quarterback. #VaultMe. That was from the VaultMe hashtag on Twitter. So that was also a loss. So
we
the only
didn't-
wins were really offensive players getting drafted.
That was it. We literally only lost the ones where for the offensive run.
Yeah.
The top of that draft, right?
So we were something in 2.
Something. Yeah. You
Our
know
listeners
that.
were 2 and a lot.
And then we've got 2 to be
2 and
determined.
like 29.
Yet. We've
in
got
the bets.
2 that still need football to be played for us to get a
Couple
result.
need football to be played.
Both wide
and
receiver
then
focused.
one potentially pending if we learn more about Top Golf and Michael Penix Jr.
Yes. Right. We're
So that was
calling
it.
that
That
a
was
loss
fun.
unless we get new evidence surfacing.
That was fun. That's again, for all those people, worst mock draft ever. You guys don't know what you're talking about. It's not that easy, is it? Making predictions for the draft. It's not that easy. Yeah, you're right. That probably could have been its own show. Got anything else for today?
I don't
We got a
think so.
good crowd here on a Monday morning in mid-May.
Yeah, we hit the breaking news, we hit the bets, we hit the most improved teams. What
Do
else
you
you got?
want to do any sort of rookie minicamp interpretation of quotes and things that have come out? For instance,
Do you have any?
Gerard Mayo's.
Oh yeah, he said Drake May's terrible, right? That's how we do this.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Huh? Got a lot to work on, I think was the quote, right?
Yeah. After practice 1.
Yeah. Which means he's terrible.
I imagine he just doesn't know how to take a snap under center or something like that, right? Or doesn't know the plays.
Uh-huh.
Is there any sort of alarm? So that's the thing. Do we overreact to that? Drake May has a lot to work on. We don't know what Gerard Mayo. I don't want to say our friends, but person that follows me that I follow that we've given shout outs before, Coach Speak Index. They do, that's the official, right?
What's his translation of
So I don't think they
Gerard
have it. So the Coach Speak Index does a really cool, they do a really cool thing. Is that the official? Yeah, the Coach, at Coach Speak Index. And they do this cool thing where they'll take all the coach quotes and then go back through the history of their quotes.
Right.
And if it's like Andy Reid's like, oh, this running back's great, he's taking all the reps, he's going to get some time, they'll be like, oh, Andy Reid always tells the truth on this, or he lies, or whatever it might be. So Gerard Mayo is a first-time head coach, so we don't know yet. But this is just more data, right? Like when he says Drake May's got a lot to work on, and Drake May's over here, not knowing the plays and getting sacked and missing protections at the beginning of the season, we're going to say, oh, Gerard Mayo tells the truth. Or maybe Gerard Mayo is just, never positive about his quarterback. Even though
he's a defensive guy. Why would he talk up the quarterback?
Mayo's seems like a truth teller, though, so far. It seems like he's been trying to, go the opposite of Bill Belichick and give more information than is needed. I'm assuming that there was some
maybe he's just terrible at talking to the press.
I think a lot of work to do after one day of minicamp doesn't mean the dude can't throw. It means, like, the guy doesn't know where people are lining up yet.
Uh-huh.
And then Drake May and Jalen Polk are at the Bruins game. They go to the hockey game.
Polk?
Yeah, the first 2 picks.
Okay.
Like, shouldn't they be in their playbook? What's going on?
Yeah.
You have a lot of work to do when you're going to a hockey game. Just saying, it's a bad start for Drake May. Let's overreact.
Isn't that a good thing? They're already, already teaming up together. Like, they're in each other's hip pockets. That's a good thing.
Not if they can't even line up properly.
Like when Malachi Corley is staying in Aaron Rodgers' guest house or whatever. That's perfect. And
that's a good start. That's a good start.
I forget who it was, but one of the...
You're already being attacked by Jets fans, by the way, saying that they're worse.
What? I didn't say they're worse. I said they're better.
Already being attacked.
I literally raised them as a potential most improved team for the Aaron Rodgers thing.
Other than Rodgers, they got worse.
I said they might have gotten worse.
Ooh.
2 through 53 on the roster,
Good
I
hedge.
think you could easily argue is worse now than it was 12 months ago.
Good hedge.
Anyway, my point being, they were getting a lot of credit. That's going to help him. It's going to help Corley out amazingly, being that close to Aaron Rodgers. I forget who it was, some former Packers wide receiver that wasn't one of the 2 that he loves and brings with him everywhere. They were like, I never got offered that. That would have helped a lot if I'd been in Aaron Rodgers' pool house or whatever. Didn't happen to me. So, I'm just saying. The fact Polk and Drake May being together, I think that's a good thing, not bad.
You think it's good that they went to the hockey game?
Yes. Together.
When Drake May has a lot to work. You can't work on things at the hockey game.
How do you know? What if they're like pitching each other play calls quietly? Testing each other.
In the limo over there, maybe they're got to get in the playbook, man.
Or even just while they're sitting there, right? The game's going on in front of you, and one of them's like, "What do you do?" versus press coverage. They're just asking questions.
You take it deep. You got to convert to go.
Right.
I don't know. Do you see anything that's worth overreacting to?
I saw a video of J.J. McCarthy failing to throw the ball to a coach that was standing about 15 yards away from him. So that means he stinks too.
Oh, boy. What happened? He tried to throw it to him?
He was just like warming up or whatever and threw the ball to the guy 15 feet away, and the guy had to make an adjustment that because he's a coach, he wasn't able to make. Oh. Now, it was, I heard here, but it wasn't good.
That was like when Hackenberg hit the cameraman with a pass. And it could have been a miscommunication. Like, there's zero context around this. We're like, see? Inaccurate.
Drink. The Hackenberg thing. Hackenberg has one of the funniest low-light reels of all time, Just all the sort of, that the video that surfaces every year. You remember when the ball just fell out of Tebow's hand, and it's like this
I was going to bring that up.
Horrific wobbling duck that then falls onto the ground, and the camera follows it as it dribbles off the field. And I think at the bottom end of it, like the back end of the video, whoever was filming it is like, what the hell was that? It's one of those videos where, okay, it's completely absent of context, and clearly it's not like it's a fair indication of Tim Tebow's baseline of throwing a football. It is, however, a perfect caricature of Tim Tebow as a quarterback. So Hackenberg is similar, where Obviously, every throw of Hackenberg, like throwing a screen into the floor, is not a fair representation of the average Christian Hackenberg throw. It is, however, a perfect caricature of Christian Hackenberg as an NFL player, i.e., terrible.
Tim Tebow has maybe the worst throwing highlight of all time and the worst blocking highlight of all time.
Yes.
One as a quarterback, one as a tight end. That's impressive.
And a perfect playoff game winning throw to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in overtime.
And let me just double check this because I'm pretty sure he has a lower AAA batting average than me. So we just want to
Really?
confirm that.
Wasn't he quite good at hitting?
He did well in Double A, I believe. Oh yeah, so he hit 223 in his career. He hit 273 his 1 year in Double A, and in Triple A he hit 163. I hit 250 in Triple A.
Okay.
So yeah, he has a lower Triple A batting average than me. I will say hitting 223 in his career in the minors, starting at age 28, is impressive. I used to give Michael Jordan credit for this. People laughed at Michael Jordan's baseball career, but to step in Double A as Michael Jordan did and hit about 200 as he did is really impressive. To just be able to step in and face professional pitching like that.
Sure.
So Tebow finished hitting 223, on-base percentage just under 300. That's not good, relative to other minor league players. It's good for a former quarterback slash tight end, though.
Yeah.
It's good for him.
He may have been a better baseball player than he was a football player.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
I don't know. I mean,
okay. Playoff win as a quarterback.
So, he's a better baseball player than he was a tight end.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
He had whatever it was.
No chance at tight end.
How was it, like 15 snaps he played in that game, in the preseason game, before they finally were like, no, enough. Might be the worst 15 snaps I've ever seen.
I mean, he's a big, jacked up quarterback, but he looked like any quarterback playing tight end, basically. It was bad.
Uh-huh.
That was it. Other than maybe Josh Allen. Josh Allen could do it.
Just those were like maybe the worst 15 snaps of football I've ever seen from a professional.
It was rough.
They were horrific.
All right, man. That's it for us today. We'll be back sometime later in the week. We'll let you know how it goes with management. We will let you know. But, that's it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you again later this week with more PFF NFL Podcast.